be out on the street with the guards and everything. It's like you can't tell them cats nothing, but everything that they learn, it's like they teach a lot of stuff that they can't really prove. And I'm like, why would you teach something that you can't open up the Bible and prove it? You know what I'm saying? It's just stuff they've been indoctrinated with, and that's one of their main tenets that they have. Well, another of their main tenets they have is the whole thing. You ever seen that little 12 tribe chart that they be having? Yeah.
There's no way.
Right.
Only one of the tribes, was the first four corners, and the other one weren't.
Yeah. Well, at this day and age, we all scattered. All of us are really scattered, because if you use Deuteronomy 28 as our basis, that's what it said. So, it says that in Deuteronomy 28, there was no distinction between Yehuda and, notice, it wasn't no split then. That was to the 12 tribes.
Yeah.
So, because even like when people say we're Judah, that's not, you can't really prove that we're in that tribe.
Trying to figure out who
Yeah.
the Levites or
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, when the scripture says that we're scattered, it means just that. We're scattered. We're scattered. We don't have no knowledge concerning our specific history. And the truth of the matter is, even among us, even though we know who Israel is as a people, most of us, we don't even know past our fourth, fifth generation. Your great-granddad, great-great-granddad, we can't even go back really that far. So there are some of us that even though we're dark-skinned, we could be Gentiles, technically. We know collectively who we are, but ethnically speaking, there are some of us that, might have a Gentile 4 or 5 generations. So because the reason why I'm saying that, because these cats teach a whole doctrine that only Israel can be saved. If you're a Gentile, you can't be saved.
Oh, that's not true.
Yeah.
That means we're at one according to the New Testament.
Yeah. Every last one of them groups, I don't know none of them groups, and there's a lot of them now. They all teach that same thing, And I'm like, if you teach that type of doctrine, you might be putting yourself in a lake of fire in hell. Because you really don't know who you are specifically. And then they have a dynamic where it's like, okay, well, the white man, he's Esau. But Israel is the Negroes, the Mexicans, the Puerto Ricans, and what they do, they say they're all Israelites. They don't put a distinction between the slave masters' descendants and...
Yeah, that is true, because if you look at it, you say that people in some of these Caribbean islands are maybe Cubans,
are
this tribe, but don't forget that a lot of those people come from Spain.
Right.
So you're saying the Spaniard are
Exactly.
that so
Exactly. And see, all this comes from the fact that we get away from that the scripture identifies with. These shall be upon you for a sign and a wonder upon our seed forever. And even the Native Americans, they be trying to prove that a lot of the Native Americans might be Israelites because of certain things that they have in their culture. But I'm like, they could have been taught some of those things. That don't make them to be Israelites, because they worship animals and certain earthly dynamics. You know what I'm saying? So the bottom line is that unless you fit what the scripture says, raw and uncut, do the curses, then you or your people cannot be Israel. It's just that simple. No matter how much we try to fit them. But that whole dynamic, oh man, white people, they're Esau. I'm like, okay. And you only going by the fact that the physical description about them being red and hairy all over. That's it. And then other prophecies about Esau, about how they're gonna, rule over us and whatever. But I'm like, okay, well, let's look at it from a real scripture dynamic concerning who Esau is. Okay? And anybody watching this on video, I had named it another name because I was going to deal with that, but I changed my mind. We're going to deal with this here. Here and also, the first place we're going to go to is Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. So if you ever have a conversation with any of them or whatever, this is like jaw dropping, because it's like, how can white people be Esau when Deuteronomy 28 is totally contrary to that? So in Deuteronomy 28 chapter, I'm going to go directly to the point. We're not going to read this whole thing, directly to the point. Start off with the 30. You going to read? Are you reading? Here, take this. You can't? All right. Because you, okay. Deuteronomy 28th chapter and the 31st. Start at the 31st verse.
Your ox shall be slain before your eyes, and you shall not eat thereof. Your ass shall be violently taken away from before your face, and shall not be restored to you. Your sheep shall be given unto your enemies, and you shall have none to rescue them. Right.
So in this verse, he says, they shall be given unto your enemies, and you shall have none to rescue them. He don't give, the only name of any nation that he gives in this entire chapter is Egypt. But enemies is plural, meaning it's more than one nation, right? It's not singular, okay? Go ahead.
Your sons and your daughters shall be given unto another people, and your eyes shall look and fell with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in your hand.
Okay, and again, self-explanatory again. It shall be given unto another people. Your sons and daughters are going to be given unto another people. So obviously, if your sons and daughters are given to another people, which is going to say, but we know that in the course of time, your sons and daughters will eventually forget who they are, because they're going to take on all of the traditions of another people if they're given to another people. I just threw that out there, but it's going to basically let us know that. Go ahead.
The fruit of your land and all your labors shall a nation which you know not eat up, and you shall be only oppressed and crushed always.
Now, in his 33rd verse, he gives us something very specific here. He says that the fruit of your land, and when he talks about your land, he's talking about Israel, the land that we are about to get. Because remember, we're in the wilderness right here. Yeah. Never even have saw the land, never been in the land, whatever. As a matter of fact, at this point, the spies have been in the land, right? He sent the spies in the land, and they came out with the report of there being giants. And man, we ain't going to be able to take this land, right? So they went in the land, right? But we as a people totally have not yet been in the land yet. But he says, your land, that specific land, which is the land of Israel, he says, the fruit of thy land and all your labors shall a nation, and if I'm going to go with what this saying, that's singular. He's talking about a people. Shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always. Now, if there was any people that would eliminate, that would be Esau, first and foremost.
Okay, because it was people that was unknown to them.
Exactly.
They knew.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We came out the same womb as Esau. Yeah. If there was any nation that this would not apply to, that would be Esau. I mean, even before Egypt, that would be Esau. So that right there to me is just too. He's talking to them. He would have directly said, "Oh, and your brother Esau is going to do this, that, or the other." He did not only not say Esau was going to be the one. He said this is going to be a nation that y'all don't have never even seen before. Okay, and the nation that they had never seen before at that particular time. For some reason, the Japhethic people were never a part of any of this. They vanished off the trace. When you see Israel as a nation, all the way up until the time of Nebuchadnezzar, right? We ceased from being a nation when Nebuchadnezzar came on the scene. We went into captivity. That's when you go into the books of Isaiah and the books of the prophets. You don't read nothing about Japhethic people at all. Javan. Matter of fact, we're going to read them. Matter of fact, let's go there and read them real quick. And we're going to come right back here. Let's go to Genesis, the 10th chapter. Because all of the people that we associated with were either Hamitic people or Shemitic people. Mm-hmm. But the Japhethic people, we didn't have no dealings with them at all. At all. We dealt with Ham, we dealt with Ethiopia, we dealt with Assyria, we dealt with Egypt, we dealt with Midian, we dealt with all of those nations, what we would call today people of color. Mm-hmm. But these European nations here,
they come from afar.
They come from afar, absolutely. Yeah. Now this is what they say. I never researched this. But they say that, even the term Europe means that they was roped, like they were roped off from everybody else. That's something I heard. I don't know how true that is, but it probably just how it was. I don't know if it was the fact that their skin color maybe evolved into a white color the way we see it today, which is equivalent to what the scripture would call leprosy. Clean leprosy, because there's unclean leprosy and there's clean leprosy. Mm-hmm. Clean leprosy is white. So I'm kind of speculating, but we know that when you're in that state that you are isolated from the rest of the people. But for whatever reason, 10th chapter, first verse.
Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were sons born after the flood. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Madai, and Javan, and Tubal, and Meshach, and Tiras.
Now I don't know who all of these is. You can look them up. I think that, if I'm not mistaken, I think Germany may have come from Gomer. I could probably stand corrected with that. You know who Magog is? You know who Magog is? Magog is Russia. So when you look at all these, you find out Magog, and Ezekiel deals with Magog and Gog. That's Russia. Madai is the Medes. That's how you pronounce the Median, like the Medo-Persian Empire. That's Medes. Javan is where the Greeks come from. Javan is the Greeks. Tubal, Meshach, and Tyrus. That escapes me off the bat. Verse 3.
And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Riphath, and Togarmah.
Now, Ashkenaz, we see that name.
Jews.
Right, there you go. That's them right there. Right. The scripture lets you know that they're they let you know they're European right here.
Yeah, they let you know.
Right.
We're Ashkenaz.
Right. Verse 4.
And the sons of Javan.
And Javan is the Greeks. That's where Javan comes from. That's Greek. Go ahead.
Elisha.
Tarshish. And Tarshish is Spain. That's where Spain comes from. Yeah, matter of fact, y'all have a encyclopedia or something over there? Yeah. Yeah, look up a few of them and see what you come up with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, try Gomer, because I might have been wrong about that one. I thought Germany, but it could be something else.
Okay, Gomer, the first son of Japheth and grandson of Noah, father of Ashkenazis, Riphath and Togarmah. Gomer is mentioned in Ezekiel 38:6 as supporting an attack on Israel that will fail because the Lord is offending his people. The reference is probably to Gomer's over offsprings, the Cimmerians with a C.
Okay, Cumerians.
Who were forced out of South Russia.
South
The
Russia.
Scythians
Scythians,
settled in the Asia Minor at the end of the 8th century BC.
Okay, interesting. Okay.
So, yeah, that's pretty much. It talks about the idols after that.
Okay. Look up Japhet. See what it says about Japhet in specific.
But they will say that they are Japheth, other whites will say that we are descendants of Japheth.
Mm-hmm.
So, which one you said?
Japhet. I just want to see how it reads, because
Okay.
see how specific it'll get.
Okay. Japheth, son of Noah, and most of the pastures referring to him. Japheth is listed as the third of Noah's son. However, one pasture seems to indicate Ham was the youngest. An additional statement has also been constructed to support the idea that Japheth was the second son rather than the third. Japheth and his wife were saved in the ark. Japheth aided his brother Shem and covering the naked body of their drunken father. The blessing pronounced upon Japheth by Noah carried with it the idea that his descendants will be greatly multiplied.
I'm going to read that. Go ahead.
The table of nations recorded in chapter 10 indicated that Japheth became the ancestor of the wide-ranging family of people whose home lay in the north of Palestine and west. In fact, 14 nations of Japhethites are listed in that chapter. In the area of their occupation range all the way from the smelting plants of Tarshish, probably in Spain.
Mm-hmm.
On the
It says Spain there?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
And put it in quotation,
Mm-hmm.
and on the west to the Caspian Sea
Mm-hmm.
of the east. This included what is now the steppes of South Russia,
Mm-hmm.
much of Asia Minor, the islands of the Mediterranean, and the coast of South Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Japheth is said to be the father of Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshish,
Mm-hmm.
and Tyrus.
Mm-hmm.
There appears to be the progenitors of the Indo-European, in parentheses, Caucasian family nations.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. Man, it's amazing how this how scriptures is history. Man, do you know how much truth we would all have if we just read this book from a historical dynamic? Because look, think about it. If you was a child, even if you was in church or whatever, depending on what church you go to, I'm speaking for myself, I could read these people and I would believe that they were real, but they wouldn't really be real to me. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. They would just be names. Just like you say Adam. Okay, Adam, he was the first man, whatever. And my belief is he's real, but it don't really affect me. But when you read something like this and you connect the people to today, historically, it brings the whole book to life then. You know what I'm saying? It's no longer just a faith thing. It's like, wait, hold up. This is history, dude. You is Japhet. That's who you are. And that's who you are right here. And man, I'm recalling a few years back, right here in Jacksonville, I was doing day labor over here on Edgewood, and I remember I was catching a bus, and there was this brother, man. He was a dark brother, and I started talking to him, and he spoke to me in an accent. And at first I thought he was like British, whatever, but he like, no, I'm Australian. It was a brother. He was Australian, and he said, I'm Aborigine. And I was like, whoa. I was like, man. I said, look, have anybody ever told you guys that y'all might have been like one of the lost tribes of Israel or whatever? He said, oh, no, we're not Israel. We're not Israel. He said, we are one of the sons of Japhet. We come from Japhet. I'm like, really? I'm like, wow. And when he said that, and he actually told me which one, and I was like, wow. Those Aborigines are Japhet. They dark like us. But even when I was looking at his features was like, they weren't African features. Even though he was dark skinned, they were like European features, but he was black. And when he said that, he was like, said it as a matter of fact. And I was like, man, that makes, he said, we're Japhet. We're the original bush people. That's what he said. I was like, wow.
Just to add on to it, I was watching a video, I forgot who it was, but it was like a video of a guy who's able to come up and show like an actual clay model of what the descendants were like.
Yeah.
So when he was talking about this is a Caucasian man, and he was talking about the descendants of, what Caucasians come from. The model was a black man, but he said his features look almost like a mixture of African, most Africans would look at this time to something almost like European.
Wow.
So they were like, oh my goodness, this is like our, the first one of us. So they said that we were, used to have more melanin, in us, but that's what he was talking about, we lost it, and our features may have changed a little bit.
That's correct.
They will tell you, this is not the first video I seen,
right.
They try to make a replica of what the first one of them were black.
Yeah.
And they looked different. So they was like, oh, it just look a little bit different.
Right.
But, they try to take a skeleton and try to
by the skeleton,
by skeleton this is the oldest skeleton alive in those regions, and trying to figure out what that person looked like.
Right. So that's who these Japhethic people is. Read that 5th verse.
By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue, after their families and their nation.
And see, again, the King James Version is one of the main versions that actually use that term Gentiles right there. Because all other versions don't use the term Gentiles there. They'll use a very vague term in that 5th verse. They'll say, like some of them say, by these were the isles, like some of them say, by these were the isles of the coastland peoples. Like, what does that mean? Coastland peoples, like everybody has a coast. If there's a land, there's a coast somewhere. It'll say, by these were the isles of the maritime people. Jehovah's Witness Bible says, by these were the isles of the nations. Because they buy into that doctrine that the word Gentile means nations. But no proper noun could be substituted for an improper noun. I hope I'm using that term correctly, because my English ain't that great. But I know enough of English to know that if I give you a name, you can't substitute that name for just man. Huh?
Right.
So if I see Gentiles, capital G proper noun, that means it can't mean nations, heathens, barbarians, or whatever. Those are, barbarians is a proper noun too, but heathens and nations are improper nouns. No, that's vague. It could be anything. But Gentiles are a proper noun. You don't see a small g nowhere in no Bibles when you see the word Gentile. That means that they are specific people. And if I see the word nations, so I'm like, well, how did you know what it says about these were the isles of the nations? Then it says, divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue, after their families, and their nations. Why would there be two? It's two different words in the same verse there.
The nation is lowercase n.
Yes, but the word is right there in the verse, though. So that doesn't even make common sense. Right there. So anytime somebody say the word Gentile only mean nations, well, in this 5th verse, you got the word nations right here in the verse. So it can't possibly mean the same thing. Right. So this is what the word Gentiles means. It's sons of Japhet. That is the definition. And sometimes they'll try to show you other scriptures where it'll use that term Gentiles. I'm like, this is the original definition of the term Gentiles. And just like multiplication, you cross-check it, because when you go in the New Testament, you'll find that Paul was an apostle to the Gentiles. That's what he's called. He's called apostle to the Gentiles. And who are those? Those the Romans, Corinthians, Philippians, Colossians, all of them that he wrote letters to, they were all Gentiles. These were their fathers right here. So Paul wasn't an apostle to the Egyptians. He wasn't an apostle to the Assyrians, the Ethiopians, because they were always part of Israel. You know, people are there. That's when people get confused. They get into the New Testament and they're like, and don't come into one of another nation. That ain't really nation. That's really Gentiles right there. Because there were always other people always around us. But the Europeans had no knowledge about us, who we were, or anything. That's the reason why all of those history books, a lot of those historians, you notice they were all written around 100 CE, whatever, during the time of Josephus, Taciturn, all of those ones that you read about, and they all did the same thing. They wrote our history to the Romans to try to teach the Romans who we were, because they didn't know who we were. Matter of fact, in the book of Josephus, there's a passage there where he says that how the Romans thought that we were Egyptians, that we came out of Egypt, because they knew we was the same color, because at that time the Egyptians still looked like us at that time. But so anyway, so when we go back to Deuteronomy 28, and we said we was in 33, and it says that 33rd verse says, the fruit of thy land and all thy labor shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt only be oppressed and crushed always. So whatever those people are, that's even over there today, which we're going to read in the scripture, they're Gentiles that's eating our land up today. Okay? Skip over to that 36th verse. We'll go straight to the point.
Yahuwah shall bring you and your king, which you shall set over you, unto a nation which neither you nor your fathers have known, and there shall you serve other idols, wood and stone.
I love that verse there. He says that neither you nor your fathers have known. So he doesn't even gave it more than what that previous verse says, right? Because the previous verse says, a nation which thou knowest not. And in this verse he says, which neither you nor your fathers have known. Meaning y'all have never even looked in the eyes of these people that's going to come and do all of these things to you all. So that cannot be Edom. That cannot be Edom. You cannot make this be Edom by no stretch of the matter. You have to throw the book away in order. But it's as simple as this is. It's like they overlook it, and this is like simple. So you could be telling somebody white people is Edom. They do that all the time. But wait a minute, where's your proof? Where's the biblical proof that the white people are Edom?
But we know they're not Edom. Remember that verse that I told you about, Deuteronomy 23?
Okay.
Verse 23, verse 7.
Okay. Right.
About the people who are included in the congregation.
Right.
He said, thou shalt not abhor an Edomite, for he is thy brother.
Right.
Thou shalt not abhor an Egyptian, because
right.
thou was a stranger in his land.
Mm-hmm.
The children that have begotten of them shall enter into the congregation of the Elohim in their third generation. When the host goeth forth against thy enemies, then keep thee from every wicked thing.
Absolutely. So yeah. Right. Now that's weird, because I'm so used to reading that 7th verse, but you make a real good point in reading that 8th verse. I'll be forgetting about that 8th verse. I always read that 7th, Ain't it? I always read about that 7th verse, but I'll be forgetting about that 8th verse. That the children that are begotten of them shall enter the congregation of Yah in their third generation. Absolutely. Absolutely. So no way can this 28th chapter have anything to do specifically with Edom in essence. But yet all these things are going to happen to us. Are going to happen to us at the hands of people that neither we nor our fathers have known. So they're going to Obadiah. Let's go to Obadiah. That's the prophecy against Edom. And this is kind of what throws them off. This is where they take us to. Oh, I know it's like Amos, right? Yeah. Oh, okay. See there? All right. Obadiah, start at that first verse. Obadiah.
The vision of Obadiah. Thus says Yahuwah Elohim concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from Yahuwah, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise you, and let us rise up against her in battle. Behold, I have made you small among the heathen. You are greatly despised.
Okay, so they ignore that. It says, behold, I have made thee being Edom, small among the heathen. And heathen is talking about all nations. Thou art greatly despised. Now, just like what you had read earlier, let's just go and read that real quick. Genesis, the 9th chapter. Genesis, the 9th chapter. Matter of fact, we better get a second witness here. Line upon line, precept upon precept. Genesis, the 9th chapter. And I'm going to go directly to the point. We ain't going to even read this whole thing. Genesis 9 and right to the point. 27.
Elohim shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant.
Right. So according to what we read, Japhet shall be enlarged. And they're not only going to be enlarged, it says they shall dwell in the tents of Shem. We done already read in Deuteronomy 28 that they were going to, that this nation that we did not know of were going to devour our land, right? Going to eat up our cattle and stuff, right? The nation that we did not know. And here it says that Japhet shall be enlarged. Not Edom. Edom is going to be the exact opposite. And Obadiah, what we just read was, Edom shall be small among the heathen. But Japhet will be enlarged, and not only will he be enlarged, he shall dwell in the tents or the habitation of Shem. And we are Shem.
Jerusalem.
Yes, Israel, absolutely.
Israel. Yeah, that's why I had to ask, was the Ashkenaz?
That, see how I'm saying? And see how it fits. You know, we don't have to like maneuver these scriptures to make it fit a certain way. Edom is small all day long. Somebody asked me, well, who is Edom today? Guess what? It don't matter who Edom is today. They're small. We probably can't even pinpoint who Edom is. Because like I was telling somebody else, I go into the Middle East right now, just look at the people from Egypt all the way up into to the tips of Russia. And I would make the mistake of calling them all Arabs because they kind of all look similar. But Arab is actually Ishmael. But the people that I'm looking at in Jordania and all of those people, they're different people. I can't really pinpoint every last one of them. But you know, Midian is still there. Edom is there somewhere. Ammon is there. Moab is there. All of Syria is there. Well, Syria is still there. Syria is there. Asher is still there. All the people that we know that we read about in the scriptures, for the most part, they're still there. But to us, if we don't know it, we make the mistake calling them Arabs. It's like when they open up a store in our neighborhood, we say, oh, them Arabs. They might not be Arabs, really, but we call them Arabs because that's what we relate to. But they could be Ammon, they could be Moab, they could be any of them people, or they could be Edom there. Right. But so it says, so in going back into Obadiah, the 2nd verse, it says how, behold, he said, I have made thee to be small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. Keep reading that. Huh?
The pride of your heart has deceived you. You that dwell in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, that says in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Though you exalt yourself as the eagle, and though you set your nest among the stars, thence will I bring you down, saith Yahuwah.
And again, when they see that term eagle, they say, that's something about white people, because white people use that eagle, whatever. I'm like, white people borrow just about everything from us, or the people like us, basically, right? But they read that, and they be like, oh, that's United States. But go ahead.
If thieves came to you, if robbers by night, how are you cut off? Would they not have stolen till they had enough? If the grape gatherers came to you, would they not leave some grapes? How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? All the men of your confederacy.
Oh, I should have read that first. So stop there. We're going to finish this.
Where are we again?
We're in Obadiah. I'm sorry.
Okay.
That was in verse 6.
Verse 6.
Okay.
So read that verse 6 again.
How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? Finish.
Read that. Read the beginning of that.
All the men of your confederacy have brought you even to the border.
Now stop there. We're going to finish reading this. But I want to read about this confederacy right here. This confederacy is very important. Confederacy. Let's go into Psalms 83. It's amazing how this Bible reads. It's a history book.
Mm-hmm.
Psalms 83. And when you get there, we're going to start off at verse 1. This is the connection that they miss. Here's the connection they really missed that throws them all off right here. Because if they understood this, they would say, okay, well, no, the white people can't be Edom. Here's the connection right here. Psalms 83, verse 1.
Keep not ye silent, O Elohim. Hold not your peace, and be not still, O Elohim. For lo, your enemies make a tumult, and they that hate you have lifted up the head.
And the Father, he used the term enemies. And so I have no problem using that term either, because he's talking about as a nation. That's another thing that a lot of Israelites don't understand. As a nation, these nations are our enemies. But out of the nations, you're going to have people that are righteous and going to want this truth. Whether they be white, black, red, or whatever. We ain't supposed to hate people. Just like we don't want nobody to hate us or judge us for the color of our skin or whatever. You got to do the same. The Father going to take care of the nations of this world, but that's not individual people though. Because they're only wicked because we allowed them to be wicked. Had we had done what we were supposed to do from the first place, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing. That's just the truth of the matter. The scripture said that we taught the wicked ones their ways. So here he says, lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head.
They have taken crafty counsel against your people and consulted against your hidden ones.
And see, look, just like we were dealing with the thing earlier today with the whole Kaepernick thing and how we try to simplify matters, the enemy is crafty. You got to really put some thought in how you deal with somebody that's that's trying to deal with you in a certain type of way. Like on our message board, this is as an example. We had went out there Thursday, right? Chandelier? Okay. After we went out there, and boy, them Gentiles were looking at us, they was mad. They was furious. But they didn't say anything. It was really weird. When we left, when the game started, we went to the restaurant and went to eat, enjoying the game, and watching the game. And I looked on the message board. Gentile called me out my name. She said something. Called me out. What did she say? She said something. She called me out my name. Said something really demeaning. I sent her a response, and if I wasn't using my phone, I'd read it. But my response was very, very nice. Very, very nice. It was so thank you for being part of this, boy. I know I thank you. Then I said some other stuff. Nothing hard, nothing insulting. And she hit me back with, oh, thank you for allowing me to be on here, whatever. And everything she said after that was nothing demeaning, because I straight embarrassed her because one thing that I understand about our enemy, that they always want to see us act up like that. And they're good for allowing themselves to appear,
They like to shine, to whereas, and I see this, and actually I talked to my mama, I talked to you about it one time, to whereas, say for instance, someone did me wrong. You know, the one thing that you want to do is express yourself for how hurt you are. But the way that you express yourself give them an opportunity to find fault against you. Is
right.
Now they feel threatened.
Right.
So now it turns the tension off of
back.
them.
Right.
Back
Absolutely.
to you.
You're right.
So even though how it initially started that person was in a wrong.
Right.
But they have a crafty way of taking
right.
attention off of themselves.
Right.
So the best thing to do, and as we're very emotional
right.
people
right.
as a nation. We're very emotional.
Right.
So we have to learn to not to be able to control our
right.
emotions
right.
and to be able to come back to a way that will
right.
take the tension, keep
right.
the tension off ourselves, and
right.
keep the tension back
right.
on them.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people haven't learned that.
Yeah.
It's good that you did that because now she's like, oh, well, I can't really do what I'm supposed to do.
Oh, yeah.
So let me go ahead and try to, calm myself and now emulate you.
Right.
Because that's how we have to look at
it.
How can we make people emulate, or
right.
how can we, what I'm trying to say is, not just making an example, but kind of control the situation.
Right, exactly.
Because I want somebody to imitate. That's when I say, how can I make somebody imitate my behavior?
Right.
And my behavior, I shouldn't have somebody imitate behavior if I have an outburst,
right.
get upset,
exactly.
or get over
exactly.
emotional.
Exactly.
And the children workers, all it's going to do is heighten it.
Right.
And then next you know, they will either heighten it or they will make it to whereas everybody else will see how my behavior has done.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. It's all about, I guess the term mind over matter,
mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying I function like this all the time, because sometimes I might go in sometimes, but, I go in when it comes down to us, usually, but not if somebody is like unlearned. I usually is a lot more peaceful, but somebody that I know should have better sense, and Yahshua was like that too, though, when you think about it. When he dealt with the so-called learned people, he dealt with them like raw. But when he dealt with somebody that wasn't really learned or a stranger or whatever, he dealt with them in another, it's different. Mm-hmm. So it's all about just really, really, really being wise. But the biblical term that you're using is gainsaying. That's the biblical term. You don't want no one to gainsay against you. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that that we try to be mindful of. But they are. It says, verse 3 said they have taken crafty counsel. Crafty means it's like beyond the normal person's comprehension. It really is. Like they got you caught up in the game, and before you know it, you don't even know how you wound up in that situation because you didn't know that they were being crafty in it. And that's what he said. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. Just like right now, the average black person, which we did a video, we was out there, we was actually interviewing people. Mm-hmm. And there's one particular brother we was talking to, and it's like, we were trying to show him how important knowledge of self is. And he couldn't comprehend it. Now, it takes craftiness of your enemy to get you to the point where you're like, that's just my name, but my name don't mean nothing. To them, see what I'm saying? We cannot, as a people, understand our enemy. I'm gonna stop saying enemy for a minute. The other nations, when an Italian dude says my name is Louis Cheminsky from the Cheminsky family or whatever, we can't comprehend what that means. To him, it means a lot because his name stands for something. Mm-hmm. Their neighborhood as a people stand for something because they don't allow things to go on like we allow stuff to go on in our neighborhoods. Why do we allow that stuff to go on? See, people don't understand that. We allow the stuff to go on because we don't have a name. We have somebody else's name. We don't have our own name. And I told that, but I say, look, but let me give you an example. Now I'm trying to make you see. If my last name was,
Kennedy.
Right. And I think I used Clark. But I said, my last name was Kennedy. You know I'm not Irish, but I'm walking around with a name. And because of that, I see your last name is Williams or something like that. I can't connect to you as you being my brother. You're just another black man, and I might even try to jack you up, take money out your wallet, whatever. But if I saw you as my brother, then I'm not going to think like that. I'm going to be trying to protect you and look out for you. This is the way nations, communities that have foundations of culture function. But we don't have that. That's why people do drive-bys and sell drugs, and that's why we don't support our own business. All that is related to a lack of knowledge of self. And I was trying to get this person to comprehend. He couldn't comprehend it just because he was just lost like that. But the point that I'm making is that the crafty counsel of the enemy has made us to be that. You know, they did not just go to Africa, grab people and say, you over here now, you got to do what I say. No, there was a systematic dynamic that was put in place. And I always use Kunta Kinte as a clear example of it, which a lot of people, it don't dawn on them. I say, let's use Kunta Kinte as an example. When he came over here, he knew that his name was Kunta Kinte. And, man, I could get deep in this. When you read Roots and even look at it on TV, and you see the way that their town was made up, Juforay, and he come from the Kente family. His dad's name is Amora, and I forgot what his three brothers' name, but they had pride in that name, pride in their community. They respected their elders. It was a whole dynamic that they had that we could read about. And the same dynamic that we're reading about, we don't even have it among us in our highly civilized state of being. You see what I'm saying? And see, when I was a kid, I was 12 years old when the movie came out. And I remember as a kid, I'm thinking to myself, man, I am so glad I'm not living in huts without bathrooms. That was my crafty mind of the enemy. But then when I read it after having knowledge and understanding, I cried. Because I was like, wow, this is what we were like as a people. You know what I'm saying? So here it is. Kunta Kinte comes over here. He sold to the Reynolds plantation, as you visualize it, as we were watching it. And the first thing happens is that Master Reynolds bids Fiddler, a skilled slave. All he ever knew was slavery. He had no knowledge of Africa or nothing like that. He is to teach you how to function on this plantation. Okay? Now, as he's doing the menial stuff, he's doing it pretty much by himself. But his main job eventually is to go out into the fields with the other slaves. But before he could go out into the fields, he could not go out into the fields named Kunta Kinte. He had, your name is Toby. And when you see that scene of him being whipped, we look at that and think like it's mean. But that was crafty counsel of them knowing that you either gonna die. You see what I'm saying? In our mind, we like, we need this cotton to be picked. I don't care what your name is, man. You better give me the 200-300 pounds. The dynamic was, you ain't going out in the fields named Kunta Kinte. I will die. You will hang and die at this rope unless you tell me what your name is. Ain't that deep? And most of us miss that dynamic. But as long as he was giving them training, he was by himself doing his little thing. Okay, well, you know, you're going to have to learn. Your name is Toby, not Kunta Kinte. But when it was time for him to go out in the fields, you will not go out into the fields named Kunta Kinte. I'm just saying how crafty that is. We missed that. We missed it. We just looking at it and just looking at it from the surface. But that was the message of them letting us know that whatever it is that pertains to you, you leaving that on the other side of that water. You're not bringing that over here. How? You see what I'm saying? They know how important that is. We don't know how important that is. It's deep. So when you read that crafty count, this is the craftiness. Because now, 400 years later, and I'm just using them as an example, dude, you get millions of dollars playing a game, 15 games a year, you get millions of dollars. What are you doing sacrificing that by trying to stand up for your people? You don't have a voice. You're not supposed to function differently than what we allow you to function. It's just simple as that. And now you get called every name out the book, right? But you have not committed no crimes. You have not called nobody out their name. You have not done any of that. But you are the worst person in the world because you are disrespect this grace that we have given you. Just like they told Kunta Toby, that's a good name, boy. That's a good name. The master giving you this name. That's what you doing. You should be blessed because you done got this name. Don't you comprehend that? You know, that is, and now that's the way we feel today. We feel blessed.
Whatever they give us.
What
they give us.
Right. If I'm standing up and if I'm holding my hand to my heart and I'm crying because I understand the beauty of this national anthem and everything, you better be doing the same thing. Anything less than that, you something else. You need to be stopped. That's insulting. But that's just how that crafty counsel is on a whole another level that we have to really understand. Anyway, they have taken crafty counsel against thy people and have consulted against thy hidden ones. Verse 4.
They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation.
Right. Cut them off from being a nation. Go ahead.
That the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance.
We got to just eliminate everything about y'all as a people, period. And we're not a people. Like, we get offended when we are reminded that the Constitution says that we are 3/5 human. 3/5 human? I ain't no 3/5 human. Yeah, you are 3/5 human. That ain't just something that they made up. They're saying it because if we have taken everything that relates to you, your name, you got my name. You got my culture. Everything, you ain't got none unless I taught you that. You're not a full human. You're about 3/5 of a human. Because these other people that know who they are, know their name, know all that, they're full people. But you are not a full person because you done lost the things that that identifies who you are. You see what I'm saying? We look at it from the out surface and we get offended, but we don't understand the science behind what they are really. They have devised and have made us to be exactly what we are today. And right now, they can't understand why our community is the way they are. They can't understand why you go in every city where we are. And they try to almost make it be like because we are, because that is natural. And it would almost seem natural. If you didn't have this understanding, what could you possibly say? You understand what I'm saying? But the truth of the matter is, y'all have created us to be just what y'all see. We were not like that originally. We were not like the way that you all try to make us to be. We were not war type people that was doing all these things, shooting up people and all that stuff. Y'all have made us to be these things in this society, okay? But so that was their mission, was to cut us off from being a nation. Okay, and verse 5.
For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against you.
And see, it's no mystery that they use that term confederacy. The Gentiles use that term confederacy. And their whole thing was against us, to make us slaves, to cut us off from being a nation. If I cut you off from being a nation, then you are a slave. How can you be anything else if you are cut off from being a nation? If you are cut off from being a nation, that means that you are separated from your own self. And now you are subject to whoever controls you now. So that's what the confederate is. Okay, and verse 6.
The tabernacles of Edom.
Edom is the head of the confederacy. Okay, the tabernacles of Edom.
The tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites, of Moab and the Hagarites, of Gebal and the Ammon, and Amalek, the Philistines, with the inhabitants of Tyre.
And the modern word for Philistine is Palestine. That's what is interpreted now, Palestine. It's the same area, Philistine, Palestine. And see again, just like I said before, these people still exist today. But we all call them Arabs when we see them. But they all like basically in the same region, what they call now Middle East, Northeast Africa, or whatever. But Edom is the head of the confederacy. Okay? That's the original confederacy. But they passed that confederacy off to the Gentiles. Okay, we're going to see that. But now, let's go back, because I wanted to read that. So let's go back to the Obadiah and finish up, because this is what Obadiah the prophet was drawn from when you talk about your confederate. He's talking about these nations there. So that was Obadiah, and that's the read that. Okay, yeah, read that. Read the 5th verse. Start off from the 5th verse.
If thieves came to you, if robbers by night, how are you cut off?
That's how the father. That's the father speaking. The father, he's thinking as he's talking. That is hilarious.
Oh, how are you?
Right, exactly. And it's funny how I love the King James Version, how it phrases stuff. Like in Numbers the 12th chapter, it talks about Miriam. She spoke. I ain't gonna read it though, but it just kind of what it reminds me of. She speaks out against Moses. It said because he married an Ethiopian woman, right? And then the father comes down in a cloud, and he say, "You three come before me, Moses, Aaron, and Miriam." Then he says, Miriam and Aaron, you two come forth. He says, now if there be a prophet among you, I myself will make him known in a vision, will speak to him in a dream, but my servant Moses not so, who is faithful in all my house. With him I will speak mouth to mouth, even apparently, and not in dark speeches. And the similitude of YAH shall he behold. Wherefore then were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moses? And it said the cloud departed, and then Miriam was turned white, and then Aaron prayed to his brother, said, "Oh man, beseech the father that he heal her." And then when Moses prayed to the father said, "Man, if she had did something to her father, would he not have spit on her face or something?" I'm kind of paraphrasing, but the point is that the father is not only mad at what happened, but he's mad because he actually had to say these words to them that he felt like he shouldn't even have to say. And as he's speaking, it says, and as he spoke, he said, and then was his wrath kindled against them. So it didn't say he was kindled against them when he first came, but as he gave this speech to them, it says, then was his wrath kindled. Like, they didn't do nothing more. They sitting there listening. But the fact that he had to vocalize this, so here he is speaking again, and he like, look, if thieves, just like she said, if she had spit in her father's face or something, it said, he's talking, but he said, if thieves came to thee, if robbers by night, how art thou cut off? Because he's just thinking about what Edom done as he's trying to talk to Edom and give them an example of how I'm so pissed off at y'all. He can't even get the whole messing across thinking, man, y'all messed up. Y'all know y'all messed up. That's hilarious to me. But he said, if these came to thee and robbed us by night, man, how art thou cut off? Would they have not stolen till they had enough? Would they? He said, if the gate gatherers came to thee, would they not leave some grapes? Verse 6.
How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought out?
Right. He said, these things that Esau do, it's like deep-seated and it's crafty. It's like it's like people on the surface wouldn't even catch it. I could even imagine, even when he formed the Confederate, that it might have been like, y'all better watch these cats, the Israelites, because, they claim they got the creator within. They'll probably said all type of things to make the Confederacy that much more powerful against us. Huh? Okay. But that's what he said. He said, look, how are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? Meaning that their whole level of wickedness is so deep that you have to be real wise to be able to catch it.
Because then they say that even in the end, that those who are after, the Father's own heart are even deceived by the crafty.
Right. Matthew 24, he said, if it was so possible, they would even deceive the very elect.
The very elect.
Right.
Yes.
Absolutely. So that's absolutely. Verse 7.
All the men of your confederacy have brought you even to the border. The men that were at peace with you have deceived you and prevailed against you. They that eat your bread have laid a wound under you. There is none understanding in him. Shall I not in that day, said Yahuwah, even destroy the wise men out of Edom and understanding out of the mouth of Esau? All you mighty men.
And the mighty men.
Oh, all your mighty men.
It says all in there. What are you reading?
I'm sorry, you're right. And your mighty men, old T-men, shall be dismayed, to the end that every one of the mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter. For your violence against your brother Jacob shall cover you.
Shame.
I read it like this. For the violence against your brother Jacob, shame shall cover you, and you shall be cut off forever. In the day that you stood on the other side, in the day that the strangers carried away captive his forces, and foreigners entered into his gates and cast lots upon Jerusalem, even you were not one of them. Even you was as one of them. But you should not have looked on the day of your brother in that day that he came and became a stranger. Did I say that right?
Nope.
I can't. I don't even understand. I don't even
you want to read it? Yeah, you should read it out.
It's the same thing.
But you can't read it. Evidently it's not.
No, it's not.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, verse 12. Read it.
Okay. But you should not have looked on the day of your brother in the day that he became a stranger. Neither should you have rejoiced over the children of Yahudah in the day of their destruction. Neither should you have spoken proudly in the day of distress.
And see, now that's deep, because a lot of times we do ourselves, we say, man, we can't be upset at the things that the Father have done, because the Father have done this to us because of our sins, right? But the Father's letting us know that our enemy, they went above and beyond how they did us. You see? He calls us to be in the situation that we're in, right? Subjecting us to our enemy. But yet, that does not mean that he's not upset at the enemy for the things that they have done to us. So he's sitting rebuking Edom because of what they did to us, even though the Father had allowed it to a certain degree, right? He's like, man, you should not have looked at your brother like that in a day in which, the stranger came in, took over their land, took over all their things. You should not have celebrated and rejoiced over the children of your own brother. You should not have done that. Huh?
Yours said rejoice?
Say it again?
Does yours say rejoice?
Yes, it's rejoice, right. In verse 12.
Oh, okay.
Read that verse 12 again.
Oh, okay. But you should not have looked on the day of your brother and the day that he became a stranger. Neither should you have rejoiced over the children of Yahudah in the day of their destruction. Neither should you have spoken proudly in the day of his distress. Okay, so he must have been like boasting about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Right, because he engineered it. So absolutely he was boasting. Go ahead.
You should not have entered into the gate of your people, up into the gate of my people in the day of their calamity. Yea, you should not have looked on their affliction in the day of their calamity, nor have laid hands on their substance in the day of their calamity. Neither should you have stood in the crossway to cut off those of his that did escape. Neither should you have delivered up those of his that did remain in the day of distress. For the day of Yahuwah is near upon all the heathen. As you have done, it shall be done unto you.
Wow.
Your reward shall return upon your own head. For as ye have drunk upon my holy mountain, so shall all the heathen drink continually. Yeah, they shall drink, and they shall swallow down, and they shall be as though they had not been. Keep going.
Yeah.
But upon Mount Zion shall be deliverance, and there shall be holiness, and the house of Jacob shall possess their possessions, and the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble, and they shall kindle in them and devour them, and there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for Yahuwah hath spoken.
So when Edom did all these things to us with the confederacy, there was a time when Edom actually ruled over us before we was finally taken into that full captivity in 70 AD. Who were these Edomites that ruled over us at that time before 70 AD? Look in your dictionary again and look up Herod.
I thought they were Egyptian.
Huh? Herod?
Yeah.
No.
He married a Hebrew woman.
Right. Right. But they, Herods, the Herod line, starting with Herod Antipas, Herod the Great, the Herod Agrippa, the first, Herod Agrippa second. I think it was like 4 kings of Herod. So you know that in Yeshua's day, they were the ones that ruled over Judea. Do it tell you what their nationality was, what the ethnicity was?
The Jewish Palestine during the period of the Roman domination, when the people Pompey organized the eastern part of the Roman Empire in 63 BC, he appointed
Hyrcanus. Yep.
Thank you, Hyrcanus the second to be the high priestly ruler over most of the Palestine, and Idumean by the name of Antipater was
That's right.
Hyrcanus senior officer. Gabinius modified Pompey arrangement in 57 by reducing Hyrcanus' authority and dividing the ethnarchy
right.
into autonomous communities. The noble
and real quickly, it says it called them Idumean. That's Edom. Idumean is the Greek way of saying Edom. Idumean. But go ahead, see if that what else that say. And I never read that what she said, but it's history. But so go ahead.
Okay. Noble services rendered at Alexandria to Julius Caesar in 48 led to the restoration of Hyrcanus' authority and the appointment in 47 and Antipater to the procuratorship of Judea. Antipater had in fact been the leading spirit in the policy that won Caesar's favor, and the Antipater used his advantage with the astuteness that foreshadowed the career of his son. He persuaded the now aged Hyrcanus to appoint Facial, I think that's Facial, Antipater's eldest son, to the prefecture of Jerusalem, and Herod, his second son, to the governorship of the Galilee.
Right, he was the governor. That's Herod. They were all Edom. Is there more to it there?
Oh, it's a lot.
Lot more. I tell you what, look up Edom.
You know what? This is the most I've ever seen on any explanation. It's like about 6 pages.
Wow.
It goes on. It does talk about the Edomites. It finally says Edomites, and let me just go to this. Herod followed the policy of the Hellenization, establishing gains at Jerusalem and adoring many of the Hellenistic cities of the domain. See Hellenism. Okay. At the same time, he sought to reconcile the Jews who hated his pro-Roman and Hellenizing policies and who never forgave him for his Edomite blood. During the great famine of 25 BC in Judea and Samaria, Herod spared no trouble on private expense to import Egyptian corn. Then it started going to talk about some. That's the first time I saw Edomites.
Right. So
it said that Herod had actually Edomite blood.
Right. So that's what the Herod, and it's like 5 of them. Because after that one, I think it's Herod Antipas, then it's Herod the Great.
Yeah, Herod Antipas.
Uh-huh. Because I think that one of them was alive when Yeshua was born, and then remember when he died, then that was the other Herod that was ruling, and they said, okay, you can come out of Egypt now. Told Joseph and Mary, because the one that sought your life is dead now. So that was the next Herod that came on the scene. And so by 70 AD, the Herods were called Herod Agrippa. Herod Agrippa I and Herod Agrippa II. They were the ones that was ruling over Jerusalem, or Judea, how they pronounced it there then. But so that was showing how Edom had briefly took over our land during the time of the Roman Empire. And what's weird about that is in 70 AD, all of Israel was taken out of the land. We were sold into captivity. We were removed from the land. But guess what? Herod was still reigning in Edom all the way into the 100s. If you look at Herod Agrippa II, you can see how long he reigned. He reigned after 70 AD.
Precisely, Agrippa and the Herodian line disappeared from history. Festus died in AD 64. One brief reference in Josephus revealed that Agrippa lived on in the garrison town of Caesarea to see the vast ruin and destruction of his country, the Great Revolt of 66 to 70. So ended the Herods in a astonishingly able family whose pro-Roman policy was far to postpone the inevitable clash between Rome and the Jews, and played in consequence and unwittingly but significant part in holding the peace during the formation years of the Christian church in Palestine.
Right. So we were gone in 70 AD, but Herod Agrippa II, he was still there ruling over that same region in the Roman Empire way after we were gone. But when you read what we just read in Obadiah, see, it all makes sense concerning what they did and how they eventually took over our land. But some of the history books say that they ceased to exist as a people after 70 AD. Matter of fact, you're looking up Edom now, right? Does it say something about they ceased to exist as a people or something like that? Because some books says after 70 AD they ceased to exist as a people. But how they insist to exist as a people when Herod Agrippa lived past 70 AD? The reason why is because he was calling himself Jews at that point.
Well, I just read something too. It's like all of them married Hebrew women and lived among Yahudah.
Right. Well, see, the Romans didn't really call them Edom. The Romans didn't see a distinction between them and us. Because when the Romans got there, they was already there, and we were there. And also by that time, the term Jew or Yahudi, Jew, it didn't refer to just our bloodline. It referred to everyone that lived in that region of Yahudea. Also, it was a term given to all those who followed the religion.
Right.
Because when you read in the book of Esther, the events of the book of Esther happened during the Persian Empire. Because she married that Persian, Ahasuerus, or Xerxes, right? The scriptures...
He wasn't a Gentile.
Yeah, he was a Gentile. That whole Gentile thing started from Nebuchadnezzar to the Medo-Persian Empire.
But I thought he said a nation we would know not, though.
Huh? Those were nations that we didn't know. Exactly. Babylon and all them, they were that particular people of, this is not the same Babylon. You got to understand, Nimrod, he was a king of what they call Babylon, but he was an Ethiopian. He was a Cushite. Right? But they called that term Babel from Babel. When you come hundreds, thousands of years later to Nebuchadnezzar, we're talking about a whole different dynamic of a Babylon at that point.
No, I was only saying because we would have known some of them then because he married Hadassah.
Yes, but at that time we were not. This is the Medo. Look, when Nebuchadnezzar came on the scene, this is when the Gentiles came on the scene. Nebuchadnezzar. After Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, fell, came the Medo-Persian Empire, which is when Esther came on the scene, during Cyrus, Cyrus, king of Persia. And that's when you read about the story of Esther. So all of these people are the Gentiles that came that will rule. When you look at the four horns, the 7 heads and 10 horns, those are all Gentile nations that are in those 7 heads and 10 horns. And we can go into Daniel and read that breakdown, but these are when the Gentiles came on the scene and the Father put the whole world in their hands at that point. From Nebuchadnezzar on down. Nobody else but Gentiles was going to be ruling at that point.
And then when you was talking about what it says about the Edomites,
right.
It does say that, of course, like you said, just to start right here, under the Persian Empire, the Edom became a province called Edomia. That's what you're saying. Yeah, Idumeum.
Right.
Because you can say
Right.
Idumeum, the Greek form of Edom.
Right.
So that's the Greek form
Right.
of Edom. But it does say, like, just moving further, it says that after the destruction of Jerusalem by the Romans in AD 70,
right.
the Idumeans disappeared from history.
That's what it says.
The mourn for Korea of the Edomites.
Right.
Came to an end.
Right. But Herod Agrippa II, where did it show he died? How long did it show he reigned? He reigned after that. Because he wasn't calling himself Edom then. He would call himself a Jew then at that point. His people ceased to exist, but he's still reigning. And the title he has called procurator, or however you say it, all the way up to 100 AD, 100 CE, however they call it. But they ceased to exist as a people in 70 AD. And not only ceased, that doesn't mean they were destroyed. That just means that they wouldn't call themselves Edom no more. Wow. Why? Because they replaced us. They replaced us. You see anything with Herod Agrippa II? Because it's a
I see Herod Agrippa.
There's a first. Yes, a first and a second.
They just talk about here goes the Herod II. Okay, the appointment carried the title of king. So in 53, the son became Agrippa II, last of the Herodian line. He appears only in the brilliant account in Acts 25, whereas Festus gasped, he and his sister Bernice, with whom he was thought to have an inappropriate relationship, heard the defense of Paul. Another sister was the wife of Antonius Felix, the procurator of Judea, whom Festus, procurator, whom Festus had succeeded. In the account of the examination of Paul, we see a vivid and revealing picture of the deference Rome was prepared to pay to a puppet master.
Now, do it show what year he died?
Let me see. Oh, here it go, right here. With the event which is difficult to date precisely, Agrippa and the Herodian line disappeared from history. Let me see. Festus died in 1864. One brief reference is Josephus reveals that Agrippa lived in the garrison town of Caesarea to see the vast ruins and destruction of his country in the Great Revolt of 66 and 70. So it doesn't really say.
So obviously that was after 70 AD, right?
Yeah, it was after 70 AD, but it said he went to lived in a town and he lived in the garrison town.
Right.
So he probably just lived and
died
there. But after that, there's no account because he basically wasn't in.
Right. Okay, yeah. Because it was one of the other books said that he was still reigning up to 100 CE, something like that. I'm like, okay, so the people ceased to exist, but he's still reigning. Because what happened, when we left, they took over the term Jews. They were what the world knew as Jews at that point.
Yeah, he probably reinvented himself.
Yeah. And they are, because the prophecy of Edom is all the way to the end time. It was that they still exist today. So they did not cease, they just ceased using the name Edom from that time. Because we just read in Obadiah about what the Father's going to do with them, in the end time. But let's go into Joel, the 3rd chapter, because again, here's that bridge that transferred the confederacy from these Hamitic people to these European people. Joel, the 3rd chapter. This also gonna kind of show why it gets a little bit confusing. I say that Nebuchadnezzar is a Gentile, the Medo-Persian, and we know they're a Gentile because again, Medes is Madai. We read about Madai.
Yeah, I just thought.
Right.
I thought Abraham married one of the. And that's what it said. It said Abraham married some other woman after Sarah passed, and that became.
That's Midian. That's not Midian. Midian and Medes are two different things. Okay. Midian is the son of Keturah. That's Abraham married Keturah. But the Medo-Persian Medes are Madai that we just read in Genesis the 10th chapter. Y'all understand what she was asking? It's the difference between Midian, where Moses was living, and he met his wife.
Not Moses, Abraham.
But Moses lived in Midian. Right, it's the same Abraham, right? Abraham, same.
Oh, yeah, because that was his cousin.
Right, that was his cousins, exactly. Right, so yeah, like you say, Abraham. Abraham married Keturah. This is Genesis 25. He married Keturah, and one of her sons was Midian, and the Midianites. Right, but Medes are Gentiles, different people. Okay, so Joel, the 3rd chapter, and verse 1.
For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Yahudah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land.
So that's what they have done. He said, and then we're going to find out who is this he's pleading with. He said, I will gather all nations and will plead with them down in the valley of Jehoshaphat and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. Verse 3.
And they have cast lots for my people, and have given a boy for an harlot, and sold a girl for wine, that they might drink.
Right.
Yes. And what have you to do with me, O
Tyre,
and
Zidon,
and all the coast of Philistia?
Right, exactly. So who is this we reading about?
Palestine. This is what we call religion.
If I put their names together, what would they be called?
Edomite?
No?
No.
You said Palestine?
No,
No,
what?
Gentiles. Okay.
No.
Tyre, Zidon, and all
It's-
the coast of the...
What are they called in Psalms 83?
Oh,
the Confederate.
Correct.
Yeah.
The confederacy, right, which is headed by Edom. Edom is the head of this confederacy, absolutely. He says, yea, what have you to do with me, O Tyre, Zidon, and all the coast, like he said, Philistia or Palestine? He said, will you render me a recompense? And if you recompense me, swiftly and speedily will I return your recompense upon your own head.
Because you have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things.
Hold up, but wait a minute. It said, but we know that in according to Obadiah, that was Edom, right? But here he's talking about the whole confederacy. He said, you done let them strangers come in and take all of my stuff. But Edom is the head of this confederacy, right? Go ahead.
And the children also of Yehudah and the children of Jerusalem have you sold unto the Grecians, that they might remove
That you
might remove them far from their borders.
See, there you go, right there. The Grecians are the Gentiles. They sold us to these Gentiles. That's how we got into their hand. You know, because every time you ever seen a depiction from Roots or any other picture you ever seen of the Europeans on the boats coming to Africa, they generally did not go into the jungles of Africa and snatch us up.
That was Edom who probably took them in there.
Well, that was the Confederate nations. You know, because a lot of them, let me ask you a question, a lot of those Confederate, right to this day, what religion y'all think that they probably observed? Remember, you had Ishmael.
Muslim.
That's correct. That's correct.
Oh, wow, I didn't think about that. Wow.
Which is the religion.
They always have the war against the Muslims and the Christians.
Yeah.
Yeah, they call them Christians.
Right. But let's look at it from a historical dynamic, though. When we came over here, that was our religion for the most part, because we was converted to Islam.
That's why we were all, if you look at, like, when we went to the church, the first Baptist church in Savannah, the writing was actually
Arabic. Yes. That history is crazy.
Wait a minute, say that again? You went to
the church, the First Baptist Church, which is in Savannah, Georgia.
That's the very first one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was built by slaves. If you look at the pews, the writing on the side of the pews was actually Arabic writing.
Wow.
So when you look back in history and people say that we were people who did not know how to read or write, yes, we didn't know how to read in your language, write in your language, but we had our own language, and it was actually Arabic.
Yes, exactly. That's why you see it. When I first read Woods, that's what I saw.
Right. I didn't know it actually existed in the church. That's the first time I have heard of it.
Right.
And it's in Alabama?
No, Savannah.
What?
Yeah.
Wow. Is it like a historical site or something? Really? The railroad run under it? Wow.
Yeah, but like I said, the book Roots was clear on all that, on the education that they had in Arabic, and because I almost became Islamic until right, exactly, because that's how they when whatever Fard Muhammad and all them, they was teaching slavery. This is the black man's religion.
Right.
But see, they didn't go far enough to see that we were converted to that religion first. All they knew was that that's what we were when we came over here. That's all that they knew.
Well, my dad knew that I mean, even though I know it was wrong, but I do thank him for that little bit of consciousness.
Yeah.
He did let us know when we were kids that that's our slave name.
Right.
And he made my grandmother really upset when we changed our name. But he was like, I will not walk around, and my children won't walk around with a slave name.
Right. Yeah. But man, that's absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the history is just so deep. But when you look at the confederacy, because anytime they be like, anytime they would say something about the slave religion, hey, the confederacy was our slave masters before the Greeks was our slave masters, right? Because it said that if they sold us, so if they sold you, that means that they ruled over you first. So we practiced their religion first, the confederacy's religion, before we practiced the Europeans' religion. The scripture is right, it's letting us know this. So, and look what else it says right here in this one verse, how powerful this one verse is. It said the children of Yahudah and the children of Jerusalem have you sold unto the Grecians that you might remove them far from their border. Greece in itself is not far from Israel because the Mediterranean,
right above
it's the same coast.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
It's the same coast.
It's like Canada.
But he said that but through these Gentiles, we were removed far from our border. This Edom didn't remove us far from our border. The Gentiles removed us far from our border. But it was all orchestrated by Edom. Edom is the head of the orchestration. So after the Gentiles took us and formed their nations, because they wasn't even mighty nations until we became a part of them.
After, when you read this, and you're a Christian, like I know my mother and them, they're Methodist, and I remember when we were kids, they had that, I call it the Apollos Creed. Well, that's not what
The Apostles' Creed.
it's called the Apostles
Right.
Creed. Well,
The Apollos' Creed. That's fun. That is really funny.
That's what they call it.
That really is funny. That's what they call it. They call it the Apostles' Creed, but it is Apollos' Creed. Yes. But it is Apollo because Apollo is the sun god. That's cold-blooded. I got to borrow that.
But I didn't know.
That is cold-blooded. The Apollos' Creed. That's blowing my mind. Of course. Wait a minute. What I just said, did you think about that too then?
No.
That's crazy.
I know, but as a kid, you watch Rocky, you're a kid, you like Rocky.
Right.
So when we used to go to church, and I'd be like, okay, we're going to say they used to say the Apostles'
The Apollos' Creed.
The Apollos' Creed.
Man, you done blew my mind with that one.
Well, I thought Rocky had his own little saying or something, or the Apollo from Rocky had his own little saying.
That is crazy. The
The
Apollo Creed.
So
Boy.
So we will read it, and inside the Apollos' Creed it said,
right.
I believe in the Holy Roman Church.
Right.
The Holy Roman Church or
Empire or church?
No,
church. Right. Okay.
Church.
Right.
I think it said Holy Roman Catholic. I think it might say Holy Roman Catholic Church.
Okay.
Or something like that. But when you look at, they had a book. My dad got all of them, my mom got all of them. But now when you look in the new books, they took that out.
Oh yeah.
They took that part out about I believe in the Holy Roman Catholic Church. They took that part out. So we used to stand up and say, I believe in the Father, I believe in the Son, I believe in the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Roman Catholic Church.
That's the Holy, that's the Apostles' Creed,
I said, oh, they took that part out. I remember that part being in there.
Man, that is crazy, man. You blew my mind with that one, Apollo's Creed.
That's what I called it.
Huh?
That's what I called it.
Yeah, and that's fitting. Because they definitely were sun worshipers. Wow.
That's it. Do you believe in Jesus Christ, his only Son, our Lord, who was conceived by the Holy Spirit and born of the Virgin?
Yeah.
On the Pontius Pilate, was crucified, died, and was buried. He descended to hell. On the third day, he rose again from the dead.
Yeah, that was it. And then it said, I believe in the Holy Roman Catholic Church or something.
Right.
It went on.
Right.
That's the new one, but it went on.
It was longer, yeah.
But that's what we used to stand up and say.
Wow. Wow.
That's it, right there. Wow, that's so deep.
That is crazy. All right, so look, it says here again, that 6th verse, it said that you might remove them far from their border. It took these Gentiles. And again, when you look at it, I mean, didn't the scripture say that Japhet shall be enlarged? So the confederacy, that confederacy couldn't have moved us over here to America. The Gentiles, the Japhet people, that was said that they should be enlarged. They're going to be enlarged, right? That's how we came over here and every other place that we had been captured. That is crazy. Oh, wait, hold up. Okay, that you might remove them far from their border, verse 7.
Behold,
wow.
I will raise them out of the place where you have sold them, and will return your recompense upon your own head. And I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hand of the children of Yahudah, and they shall sell them to the Sabians, to a people far off, for Yahudah has spoken it.
And I believe that the Sabians are, that's Sheba, which is part of Ethiopia.
They're going to be in the sun. Don't like they're going to be in the sun. Oh, God.
S-A-B-A, is it?
B-A-M.
Oh, I'm sorry, S-A-B-E.
Yep.
Right, because it's like Sheba, right? S-A-B-E-A-N-S.
It doesn't have it in here. But it says Saban. Let me just make sure this is not.
They should sell them to the Sabians. Yep. Because
We don't even know.
No. Sheba is one of the hold on. Let's look. Sheba's in Genesis the 10th chapter. Is Sheba one of let me look. Is that one of I'm trying to think. Was that one of Keturah's? There's a few Shebas actually. One, I think, Keturah had a Sheba. These are the generations of.
The Sabians or Sabians.
Oh, what you got there?
Were an ancient people speaking an old South Arabian language who lived in the southern Arabian Peninsula. The kingdom of Saba has been identified as the biblical land of Sheba.
Sheba, right, exactly, right. Now there was a Sheba that comes out of Abraham through Keturah. That's one Sheba. Let me see, I think there's another Sheba.
S-A-B. Okay.
Oh yeah, and Ham has a Sheba too.
I knew that.
Right.
Okay, Sabian. Okay, here we go. I found it. Okay. Okay. Yeah, and they also say Sabian. It has two different. This occurred 3 times in the Bible as the rendering of 3 Hebrew forms in Isaiah 45, verse 14, and the term of Sadai is used with a reference to a tall people in a context that also speaks of Egypt and Cush, suggesting that these Sabians were from the southeast Africa. It is possible that the same form occurs in Ezekiel 23, verse 42, with reference to certain people from the desert. So the meaning of this text is uncertain. In Job 1:15, we read that Job's oxen and donkey was carried off by the Sabians. Here, the name Seba is used in the context of the story appears to be North Arabian. Finally, in Job 3:8, the Phoenicians and the Philistines are told, I will sell your sons and daughters to the people of Judah, and they will sell them to the Sabians, a nation far away. In this ambiguous reference, the form used is Sebium, is spelled different. The Gentilic from Seba. So then it goes about Sheba. The matter is further complicated by the fact that the Bible distinguishes between a son of Cush named Seba and the grandson of Cush named Sheba. and it's their grandson. The name Cush and Seba occurs together in Isaiah 43:3, while Seba and Sheba was associated in Psalm 72:10. Moreover, there were two additional people by the name of Sheba,
right,
who was descendants not from Ham, father of Cush, but from Shem, named Sheba, son of Joktan. Genesis 10:28, and Sheba, son of Jokshan, 25:3. The latter was the grandson of Abraham and brother of Edom. According to the scholars, a genetic distinction should be made between northern Sabian, descendants from the Semitic Sheba, and the southern Sabian, descendants from the Hamitic Sheba or Seba. Other arguments for a common progenitor. The possibilities must be left open, either that at some point the southern Sabians colonized some regions of North Arabia, or that the Sabian states began in North Arabia with the movement towards the settlement of the southern part of the country during the middle of the second millennium BC. But it goes on further.
Right. So yeah, so it's deep. So if you go into Genesis, the 10th chapter and the 7th verse. Yes, it could be one of four actually. Genesis, the 10th chapter and the 7th verse, and I'm going to read it here. It said, in the sons of Cush, it gives you a Seba right there, the first one. Right? And Havilah and Sapta and Reamah and Saptica, and the sons of Reamah, there's a Sheba right there. Sheba. Right. And then if you go down further after 21, here's the thing too, just for point of reference. It says, unto Shem also the father of all the children of Eber.
You at 21 now?
21, right. And do y'all know why Eber is distinguished right there? In that 21st verse? It says, unto Shem also the father of all the children of Eber, the brother of Japhethic the elder, even to him were children born. That Eber, that's where Hebrew come from.
Oh, that's right. And I'm like, I know that was
right.
We talked about that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and that was another point that I wanted to bring too. That that kills that the white man is Esau is because, again, going back to all of these sons. When you go on Genesis 10:5, it says, by these were the hours of the Gentiles, divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue, after their family and their nations. So tongue is the identifying factor of who you are, not color. It ain't nothing here says nothing about skin color. Your tongue is the identifying factor. Esau spoke Hebrew. Just so even in...
I just read that. Wow, that's funny. Because they were saying how, I was just looking at the Macedonians, the Grecians, and it said they recognized who they were because of how they sound.
Exactly. That's correct. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's how you are identified, by the tongue that you speak.
Babylon.
Right. Exactly. Because the 11th chapter is where it breaks down Babylon, but the 10th chapter, all of these different sons, and they were progenitors of their own nations because they were given their own tongue. Okay, so that's so going back to that 21st verse again, it says, unto Shem also the father of all the children of I could have said the Hebrews, but it's Eber, the real person's name. And that's why he's distinguished there. 22 said the children of Shem, Elam, Asher, Arphaxad, Lud, and Aram. And of course, Aram is the Aramaic tongue, right? And the children of Aram, Uz, Hol, Gether, and Mash. And Arphaxad begat Selah, and Selah begot Eber. And unto Eber were born two sons. The name of the one was Peleg, and for in his days was the earth divided. So when people read Genesis 14 chapter, they read Abraham the Hebrew. Some people they teach that Abraham was the first Hebrew. He could not have been the first Hebrew. The scripture don't say that he spoke because Hebrew is a language.
And he also lived in Ur.
Right. Right. Exactly.
It looks like here Ur was also Aramaic.
Oh, right. Exactly. So they had the same family, but even they spoke different, because Aramaic and Hebrew is very much alike, according to what we understand it now. Because they say even Yahshua spoke Aramaic in 2,000 years ago. That was a language. But Hebrew again is a language. So Abraham was not the first Hebrew. He was a Hebrew, and they put a whole definition to it. But that has nothing to do with Abraham. He's a Hebrew because his father is Eber. Simple as that. But when people don't look at it from a historic aspect, they come with these definitions to try to, explain it. But scholars, huh? Say it again. Absolutely, Ishmael spoke. All his descendants spoke Hebrew. Absolutely.
We know Ishmael.
Right. I mean, they're all talking. The only time one example when you see a translation, right, is because you see when Joseph was in Egypt, then he learned the Egyptian tongue.
Or when what's his name? Joseph? No, not in New Testament. What's his name? The one who the father made him blind. John? Not John. Paul. He said he spoke to me in the Hebrew tongue.
Right.
And it's because he spoke a different language or different language.
Right.
You see,
right.
Exception.
Right. But there was Joseph speaking Hebrew, and his brothers came to him. Right. The way he disguised himself was speaking Egyptian. He spoke through an interpreter, right. But they all looked alike. All of them standing there looked alike. Right, because they didn't look at him and think he was a Hebrew, and that's their brother.
Because they looked at, because of his tongue.
Right.
Whatever he spoke.
Right. Yep.
So that's why we have, that makes a lot of sense why it's so hard. And I know why, but, for other people who are not conscious, they can't assimilate into this culture here is because we really can't grasp their language the way they do either. We don't know the King's English the way they do.
Yeah.
We can't even understand it. Even in their documents, you have to. That's in the whole. I'm reading some of the.
Well, I mean, in fairness, white Americans don't speak the King's English.
They don't either. They don't. But I'm talking about the ones who wrote the Constitution.
Right.
They spoke a more pure form.
Absolutely.
Than
They spoke the same language that the English people, King George and them spoke. And that we were just talking about that yesterday. I think we were talking about that. Like we can't even imagine how George Washington actually sounded and Benjamin Franklin. We hear them in our white people today's tongue, but they absolutely spoke English.
Yeah.
And they talked about how they taught themselves, and they even in their language that they even used. They were so good at how they spoke that they can, what I'm thinking of, what's his name? What's the black guy?
Frederick Douglass? No.
Yeah.
Frederick Douglass?
Frederick Douglass.
Okay.
How well they spoke in the English language to whereas they could win an argument because their English language was so good that people were kind of like shocked.
Amazed.
When you read even contracts today, though, contracts even today
are written in that.
Are written kind of like in an old English form.
Yeah.
So it's based on interpretation. That's why you have to go before a judge and he has to determine whether or not this applied to you or this didn't apply to you because it's based on interpretation. And I'm reading it in the English, like when I'm reading this King James right here, it's all the same. So we reading it with this tongue we have now, which is totally different from the tongue that they had then. Even reading this King James, it's really hard for us to get into that.
It's like when you're looking at the fight promotion, Mayweather and what's that Gentile name? Mayweather and the dude he fighting. He up there speaking, he's speaking all, and he's speaking in that English. That's the Cockney English that he's speaking. And we understand half of what he's saying. You know the dude that Mayweather about to fight.
Yeah, I heard something about it. I don't know what
Yeah. You know, they do their little promotion, and he up there, how do I look? And he's speaking in that Cockney, Idris Elba, that's Cockney that he's speaking. Because they're like 20, in England, as small as England is, and it's small, they're like about 20 different variations of English that they speak. You know, Cockney is like the poor people.
This one the
Huh?
bastard.
Yeah, McGregor. Yeah.
They call this the bastard language.
Right.
This English.
Right, exactly. Absolutely. And so again, now we get onto a whole nother topic.
But it's interesting how you said you can tell by the sound of Idris's voice where he's
Exactly. What part of England? Absolutely.
Like you said, McGregor, you can hear that,
Right.
and you can
Right.
tell they're from the same place.
Right, the dialect. Yes, a dialect.
Yeah.
And see, here's the thing.
We have it on the island.
But you know what? Right, exactly. You see, here's the thing too. That's the reason why you got so many Hebrews right now get caught up in thinking that you learning the Hebrew language is going to give you a better understanding of these scriptures, and it hasn't panned out. I don't want to get too deep in that, but my thing is this. English as new, because this is a new language. This language that we speaking did not even exist in Yeshua's day. It didn't. And so as it evolved, just using English as an example, we couldn't even understand somebody talking 400 years ago. You know what I'm saying?
Even the
So if you know that English is like that, you know that Hebrew is the same way. Scripture shows you that even among the tribes, they had a different dialect among the tribes. Like there's a place in...
where he said, told him to say a word.
Right. That's correct. He said, say, shibboleth.
Yeah.
And he pronounced it without the sh sound, according as written, shibboleth. S-I-B. And he couldn't frame, it says he couldn't frame to pronounce it, and they killed him because he identified. They all Israelites. That's in the book of Judges, and that's how they tested him. By the way he pronounced it, they identified that he was of not Ephraim, Ephratah, I think Ephratah, which is just a region over there. Exactly. So how are we gonna sit up there and say you can't say Yahushua, you got to say Yahoshua? That is you can't. No.
Right.
All we have the Hebrew letters Yod, He, Shin, Wah, Ain. I think that's it. But we don't know, because even the way that Yahshua, the son of Nun, however he pronounced it, same letters, it could not have been the same exact pronunciation as Yahshua, the Messiah.
Right.
Thousands of years later. 1,000 of years later.
Well, even when you read into your concordance, like at the concordance at home, it'll tell you that those other letters were accent marks. And so that's what they use them for. You don't really know, because if you look at some translations, it'll have the accent marks different. It might be the same name, but the accent. So it all depends on dialect.
It depends on dialect, and then, different, like, I was looking at a video on different Hebrew-speaking tribes even in Africa say the name different.
Right.
The Linda tribe
Right.
say Yahweh. Some
Okay.
people are saying that W
Okay.
is like a V sound.
Right.
And then you have another one saying Yahuwah.
Right.
And then you have another one saying a different. So
Right.
it's like they all are
Right.
pronouncing it,
But
Right.
he said, I will speak to you in the
Stammering lips and another tongue. Stammering tongue and another. Yeah. Isaiah 28, yeah. But I mean, right, scripturally, that's why we know that you can't get caught up in that. You know what I'm saying? You got to understand, exactly.
If you don't understand his English, you're not going to understand that.
Right, exactly,
Or whatever language or scripture.
Right.
French.
Right.
You understand that
Right.
French.
Right.
They ain't gonna understand Hebrew.
Right.
Like,
Right. So I mean, when somebody say, "Well, this is how you pronounce it," well, that's how you pronounce it. You know what I'm saying? That at what point in of Hebrew history did they pronounce it the way you pronounce it? Because all we have are letters. We ain't got nobody sounding it out for us. But the way they spoke in Yeshua's day was not the same Hebrew that they spoke out in Abraham's day. You know? Right. They might have had the same root, but we don't know what that root is.
That right there, root, that's a Chicago way of saying things.
What y'all say, route?
Root. It's root. Route is R-O-U-T-E. Say shrimp.
I say shrimp.
Not spring, not that.
Because that's
some people say in Jersey, New Jersey.
No, they say shrimp in Chicago.
No, we say shrimp.
No, I had a friend of mine on the west side of Chicago. I would look him up on Facebook. We used to make him say
that's just him because he's ignorant. That's just him.
I said, say shrimp again. He said shrimp. I'm like,
no, what? I ain't gonna lie. My brother says shrimp, but that's not the Chicago
because
thing.
the west side, no, but your brother grew up on the west side.
Yeah, he did. You're right. You're right.
No, because
Okay, I
the
can't say.
people on the west side, they sound like they have more Mississippi dialect
Right.
than any other part.
Right.
And we know, like, well, you from the west side, the way they talk.
Right.
They have that little country talk, that country.
Right.
But then I listen to people like in New Jersey, I have friends in New Jersey, and when they say a word, it's like, huh? They will say scrimp.
New Jersey's from Georgia. They all from Georgia.
Yep.
Yeah, they will say
Yep.
They all from Georgia.
Man, that's heavy.
I told you, it's the west side. See, west side.
the west side, it sounds very much.
But you're not the south side. South side is.
No, we're not. Yeah.
I don't think it's south side though. But I do think it's west side thing.
Yeah. Well, I can't kick him. My brother definitely do say scrimp. I don't know why he say that. Lee don't say scrimp though. Let's go to Luke 21. Let's just read that. I think we're gonna. That should be it. Luke 21. Luke 21. So we know at this particular time that we're reading this, the Herod was ruling. This is about 27 AD, BC. 27 CE. They call it CE, AD or whatever.
And this is still showing that Edom is not Gentiles. They're not the same.
Right. Right. Luke 21, and then let's skip down to the main point. 22. 21, 22nd verse.
For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled.
So here you got, it's letting us know that Israel will be led away and captive in all nations, and it gives us a time frame when that will end, which will be the end of the time of the Gentiles. But what will the Gentiles will be doing at the same time? They will be trodden down our land. So scripturally, Israel cannot be like people say, well, the Jews, those are the people over there. They can't be, because Scripture says that those are Gentiles over there right here. Ashkenaz. You see that? And they're going to be there until their time is fulfilled. Ashkenaz. And how we know when that time is fulfilled? Because the Jehovah's Witnesses say that ended in 1914. No, see, they go by vague foolishness. First of all, the time of the Gentiles can't exist at the same time that the kingdom of the Father is here. Common sense. If the Father's kingdom is here, then that means that the time of Gentiles is done away with. I mean, that's just common sense. The two kingdoms don't exist simultaneously. Huh?
Yeah, right now they're trying to build their other temple.
Right, exactly. And then it says in 25th verse says,
and there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars, and and upon the earth, and distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth. For the powers of the heavens shall be shaken, and then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory.
So until he come in the power and great glory and the sun and the moon and do all that stuff, we still live in the time of the Gentiles. Israel is still in captivity into all nations, and Jerusalem is still being trodden down of the Gentiles, specifically Ashkenaz, as they call themselves. Ashkenaz.
Remember that lady? We was at this Mediterranean place that I go get stuff from. We was getting euros at the time too, and those grape leaves.
Grape, right.
And we went over next door, and there was a bookstore over there. And there was a white lady, owned the bookstore. And I'm standing there talking to her, and she said, yeah. And I said, I don't know how we got on the subject of where she was from. And she said, well, I'm Jewish. Oh, we were asking her about Bibles and stuff.
Where was that again?
At the bookstore that was right next to the Mediterranean store over off Accessory.
Oh, Accessory, right.
And so we were asking her about books and Bibles and stuff in Hebrew. She said, well, I'm Jewish. I'm of the Ashkenazi tribe. I'm actually descendant of the Jews of Shem or something, she said. And so we stood there listening to her, and I didn't say nothing. I just was like, oh. So Josiah came over, and he said, you're not Shem. I'm going to show you who you are right now. And he went into the scriptures and read Genesis 10
chapter, yeah.
1 through 5. And he said, you said you were Ashkenaz? She said, I'm Ashkenaz. He said, right here it says you're of the Gentiles. And he read it, and that lady started crying.
Well,
that lady started crying. I mean, she literally
I
sat
forgot
there
about
and
that.
tears
Wow.
in her eyes. And she started crying. She said, well, I know what my heritage is, and I know that, and then she
I forgot about
literally
that.
started crying.
Yep.
And I was like, wow, this lady is crying. It was amazing. It was like, wow, she did not want to be a Gentile. But she had said she was Ashkenaz. She said it.
So where is that script at?
I don't think nobody ever pointed it out to her.
Huh? No. I'm looking for okay. So Genesis 16 chapter. No, Jeremiah.
Oh, okay. Well, I got it.
Jeremiah 16 chapter. Jeremiah 16 chapter and verse 19.
Oh, Yahuwah, my strength and my...
Wait, hold on. Let me make sure that you did that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, you got it? Okay. Go ahead.
O Yahuwah, my strength and my fortress and my refuge in the day of affliction. The Gentiles shall come unto you from the ends of the earth and shall say, surely our fathers have inherited lies, vanity, and things wherein there is no profit.
There you go, right there. That's it right there. They have inherited lies. I could have showed her that. That's they gave you half truth. You are Ashkenaz, as you say, but this is where Ashkenaz is. That's why she was crying. See, it's one thing to tell somebody something when they read it out their own eyes. Wait a minute, this is what Ashkenaz is. And they know they're European. See, and that's the thing. That there were 3 great conversions of Jews historically, biblically. The first one that I can recall is in Esther, right? Mm-hmm. In the book of Esther, after they had defeated Haman, ain't that what his name was, Haman?
Oh, yeah. He had that thing he was in hanging Jews on.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what it says here in so he devised that thing against the Jews or Yahudi in the book of Esther. Okay. Oh man, I'm in the 9th chapter. trying to Jews a good day and a good day and Mordecai. Jews rested from and the Jews undertook, and I'm trying to find it. And Esther and the Purim. It's somewhere where it says here. It says and it says how all the people in the realm became Jews. I'm looking dead at it. I know I'm looking dead at it. Therefore the Jews dwelt, and there was gladness and peace and a good day. And Mordecai, it says to establish him 15, and as the Jews were saying, there was a good day and a professor, and Jews took the enemy and Esther. They have
It said Jews or Hebrews?
Huh? No, it says Jews. See, it wasn't using it didn't use the term Hebrew,
Right.
because at this particular time it was just Yahudah. Mm-hmm. It wasn't the 10 tribes had already been gone. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I got it. It's 8th chapter and verse 17. 8th chapter and verse 17. I'm going to read it. And it says, and in every province and every city, whithersoever the king's commandment, his decree came, the Jews or Yahudi had joy and gladness, a feast and a good day. And many people of the land became Yahudi, for the fear of the Yahudim fell upon them. So these people, huh?
That's the what?
8 verse 7.
Oh, 8.
Verse 17.
8 and 17?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't know.
And see, again, this is a Hazarus, or in their tongue, a Hazarus is the Hebrew form of Xerxes. It's a Xerxes. This is the same Xerxes that you see in the movie 300.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the same dude. This was his wife, Hadassah, whose name was changed to Esther. Huh?
You seem so good.
Yeah, I know.
This was one, and then also when Abraham, then people come, when they came out of Egypt, some people converted or something like that. Wasn't there a time too, people?
Well, let me see. Okay, because we can't use the term Jews because Israel didn't even exist.
Yeah,
right.
That's why they say it's converted.
Right. I'm trying to remember.
Those people, some people of different nations came also. I thought it was.
I'm not really quite sure because I know he defeated the 4 kings that destroyed the 5 kings, Sodom, and so that was sort of a conversion there with Sodom in Genesis 14th chapter. That's the reason why. Now I love teaching that. How when we read about Sodom being destroyed, people don't understand why Sodom was destroyed. And the reason why they were destroyed because in Genesis 14 they were saved, but through Abraham. So that was a form of conversion. Because when he delivered those people, the Sodomites, and the king came and said, look, you take the stuff, but give me the people, right? In Genesis the 14th chapter. They went back to Sodom. And they had Lot went back with them. Because that's where Lot lived at. Yeah. So at that point, those people were bought with a price. See, so people don't understand that. They think that Sodom was just wicked and the Father destroyed them. But no, Sodom was now under a covenant to be a righteous people because they had been delivered. Right. There was supposed to have been no more Sodom after them kings destroyed them. They were to cease to exist as a people. But when Abraham delivered them and they went back to Sodom, now they should have been following Yah at that point, right? So that's when you get into Genesis 18 chapter, right? And when the father he said, should I hide from Abraham this thing that I'm going to do? The father didn't even want to tell Abraham that he was going to destroy Sodom. See, people don't understand how deep that was. He didn't want to tell Abraham that after you risk your life and the life of all your people, 318, to save these people, they were more wicked than they was before this happened. And then that's when Abraham get the bargain in the father, right? He said, man, surely there got to be 50 righteous people in Sodom. Because he knew, like, my nephew lives there. He know how to serve Yah. And they know that if it wasn't for me, they wouldn't even be a nation. You can't tell me ain't 50 people there. They like 40. And he had to think about it. Hold up. I ain't been there in a minute. 30, 20. But that's the whole idea. So I think when you said, so that's what made me think about it. You know, like that was a form of conversion, because when you deliver it through the Father, you are accountable to live a certain type of way. It just makes common sense. And it's even with people don't understand concerning Canaan being destroyed, right? We think it was all about Genesis 9th chapter where Canaan laughed at Noah because he was drunk. But actually, the Father had, in that same Genesis 14th chapter, the Father had a presence in Canaan, which was Melchizedek. He was the king of Salem. Salem is Jerusalem. But he was the king of the Most High. He was a priest of the Most High and king. So that was his representative there. But when those people didn't know how to be obedient, then they ended up getting destroyed. And that's how we got that land. Because that's the Father's land, which is Canaan, the land of Canaan. That is his prized possession. And you can't, and that's the reason why people say, well, let's go live what we got on. No. Well, the scripture said that the Gentiles are tried in Jerusalem now. Let them do it, scripturally speaking. Come on, let's not step outside of what the scripture is saying. The Father don't play when it comes down to his land. We read that, that's why we took it over from the Canaanites. They had Melchizedek right there to teach them how to, and then even when the 10 tribes fell in 2 Kings, the 10 tribes fell, and the king replaced them with these other people that we later call Samaritans. They didn't know how to worship the Father there, and he sent lions in to deal with them. You ever read that before in Kings? Let's see, that's in 2 Kings. 2 Kings, the 19.
Who the Father did what?
Bring lions.
Yeah. The inhabitants that lived there.
Oh, because they didn't know his way.
They did not know his way, correct.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, 2 Kings.
They had to send somebody over there.
The Levites.
Yeah,
that's how the Levites lived among them. That's in 2 Kings, the 19, I think. Yeah. Just read that real quick. But it's just an example how the Father is very...
2 Kings 19. And...
Oh man, it's 19 chapter. Who's the king then? Oh, Sennacherib, King Sennacherib. Let's see, and then Hezekiah. I know I'm looking right over it. Oh, this is 17th chapter. I want to read it real quick. Right, okay. Here you go. It's the 17th chapter, I'm sorry.
What is it again now?
2 Kings, the 17th chapter and verse 1. Yeah. It's funny how this Bible key marked this whole thing up, erasing stuff in there. I don't know why she did.
In the 12th year of Ahaz,
okay.
king of Yahudah, began Hoshea, or Yeshua, the son of Elah, to reign in Samaria over Israel 9 years. And he did that which was evil in the sight of Yahuwah, but not as the kings of Israel that were before him. Against him came up Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, and Hoshea became his servant and gave him presents. And the king of Assyria found conspiracy in Hoshea, for he had sent messengers to So king of Egypt, and brought no present to the king of Assyria, as he had done year by year. Therefore the king of Assyria shut him up and bound him in prison. Then the king of Assyria came up throughout all the land and went up to Samaria and besieged it 3 years. In the 9th year of Hosea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel away into Assyria and placed them in Halah and in harbor by the river of Gozan and in the cities of the Medes. For so it was that the children of Israel had sinned against Yahuwah their Elohim, which had brought them up out of the land of Mizraim from under the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and had feared other idols.
So this Hosea, he would be the last king of Israel, the northern kingdom. Yahudah would still be the one left. But Israel, the 10 tribes, they're about to be put in captivity to this day. Go ahead.
And walk in the statutes of the heathen, whom Yahuwah cast out from before the children of Israel, and of the kings of Israel, which they had made. And the children of Israel did secretly those things that were not right against Yahuwah their Elohim, and they built them high places in all their cities, from the tower of the watchman to the fenced city. And they set them up images and groves in every high hill and under every green tree. And there they burnt incense in all the high places, as did the heathen, whom Yahuwah carried away before them, and wrought wicked things to provoke Yahuwah to anger.
And just as a side note, read 12 again, 12.
For they served idols, whereof Yahuwah said unto them, Ye shall not do this thing.
We were just talking this week about these statues, which are idols. Right. And you had mentioned about how they always are built up high. See, these is high places right here. This is an example here.
Yep.
And the idols are always set up high, where when we looked up at them, we worshiped them pretty much, right?
Yep. Yet Yahuwah testified against Israel and against Yahudah by all the prophets and all the seers, saying, Turn ye from your evil ways and keep my commandments and keep my statutes, according to all the law which I commanded your fathers, and which I sent to you by my servant the prophets. Notwithstanding, they would not hear, but hardened their necks, like to the neck of their fathers, that did not believe in Yahuwah their Elohim. And they rejected his statutes and his covenant that he made with their fathers, and his testimonies which he testified against them. And they followed vanity and became vain, and went after the heathen that were around them, that were round about them, concerning whom Yahuwah had charged them that they should not do like them. And they left all the commandments of Yahuwah the Elohim, and made them molten images, even 2 calves, and made a grove, and worshipped all the hosts of heaven, and served Baal, or Lord. And they caused their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire, and used divination and enchantments, and sold themselves to do evil in the sight of Yahuwah, to provoke him to anger. Therefore Yahuwah was very angry with Israel, and removed them out of his sight. There was none left but the tribe of Yahudah only. Also Yahudah kept not the commandments of Yahuwah their Elohim, but walked in the statutes of Israel which they made. And Yahuwah rejected all the seed of Israel, and afflicted them, and delivered them into the hand of spoilers, until he had cast them out of his sight. For he rent Israel from the house of David, and they made Jeroboam the son of Nebat king, and Jeroboam drove Israel from following Yahuwah, and made them sin. And
see, that was years ago.
Yep.
Because what happened was, when David had ended, and then Solomon became king. And of course Solomon became wicked through the same reason, idolatry. Solomon's son was Rehoboam, and then Rehoboam was wicked, period.
Yeah.
And that's when a prophet named Ahiah came to Jeroboam and said, and he rent his garments in 12 pieces. And he said, here, you got these 10 pieces. And he gave him 2. Left 2 for Rehoboam. And so Rehoboam had, the Yahudah consisted of who? Benjamin, right, Benjamin. And Levi. That was Yahudah. And then all the other 10 tribes was Israel. Israel to the north, right. And so now, Israel never had a righteous king at all. Yahudah, we had a couple of righteous kings. One named Josiah. But we had but Israel had no righteous kings. Ahab was so wicked. When you read about Ahab in here, he was so wicked that the father started referring him by name. He said, in the days of Hezekiah, king of Yahudah, and the king of Israel, he started calling Ahab by name. It's so funny when you read it. He didn't call him by his name no more.
The father is the king of
I'm telling you, when you read it, you can just feel his spirit and just how it's read in this thing. But they were wicked, so he took them out, and so this king replaced them with them other people we read about up in the 6th verse. Okay, where is it? Okay, read 24. Okay, just go ahead.
When he rent Israel from the house of David and made Jeroboam the son of Nebat king, and Jeroboam drove Israel from following Yahuwah and made them sin a great sin. For the children of Israel walked in all the sins of Jeroboam which he did. They departed not from them until Yahuwah removed them.
And see, he was stupid because the prophet had gave him these 10 pieces representing 10 tribes and said, "You're gonna rule that, and we're gonna leave the 2 for Rehoboam." For David's sake, because the covenant he made with David, right? That's the only reason why he left them there. And so when Jeroboam finally became the king, because what happened was Rehoboam had these young counselors, and they advised him on how to rule the land. So when the old man came to say, "How you gonna rule?" And he said, I'm gonna rule by my loin and my fingers gonna be thicker than whatever. And they say, "Well, we ain't got nothing to do with you no more." And they just left and said, "We're gonna have Jeroboam as our king." And they walked away just like that. And so there was 2 nations split. And then Jeroboam, when it came down to the feast days, he was scared. The father gave you a kingdom, and you scared that your people are gonna go down to Yahudah to keep the feast. And so he made these 2 calves. Right.
I remember that.
Which, how foolish can you be? And
It's a sin, a great sin.
right, exactly. So okay, now finish reading. You got about 4 more verses here.
Yahuwah removed Israel out of his sight, as he had said by all his servants, the prophets. So was Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria unto this day. And the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon, and from Cutha, and from Ava, and from Hamath, and from Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel. And they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof.
So see, again, that's why you got no history, because then when you go into the New Testament, you read about the woman of Samaria. She's not an Israelite. She's one of these converts, and which is what I'm talking about. That was another conversion right here. So Esther gives you a conversion. This is another conversion right here. Because none of these are Israelites, but they were called Samaritans. So when you read about the Good Samaritan and all them, this is what it's talking about right here.
Some black Assyrians right now.
All these people were people of color that we were replaced by. Right.
Because I think some of the Assyrians are light skinned too, though.
Okay.
And I believe that those are some.
Okay, now keep in mind, there's a difference between Assyria and Syria. Those are 2 different nations.
Right. One is by Turkey.
One is Syrian and Assyrian.
Right.
And one is by Turkey, right?
Right, that's Syria.
Because I think that those are Gentiles.
Turkish people do have Gentiles, because, matter of fact, them Turkish are the people that replaced the original Egyptians too, and they're Arab by religion. So it's that whole history is deep. Yeah. Yep.
Even if you look at back in history, when they give you a lot of photos of different people, there were a lot of people of color,
right.
Back then who was holding great positions. Even if you look at some of not just their statues, but their symbols, and they were people of color. Some of those symbols, those images, they were people
right.
of color.
I look at Jaja Gabor, her sisters, and the Kardashians.
They Gentiles.
They're all Turkish though.
Yeah, I thought they were like, no, right, they're one of the Slavic, Yugoslavia.
Right next to it.
Huh?
Isn't that right next to it?
Well, they border close to, yeah.
I thought they were Turkish.
I thought they were not Yugoslavia.
No, I thought they were Turkish. Hold on, I'm gonna find out.
Not Armenian.
Armenian. They're Armenian.
They Armenian? Because that's what the Kardashians are, Armenian.
Kardashians are Armenian.
Huh.
She said, who did she say was her sister?
Armenian.
She said my such and such sister, and I had no idea that woman was from the same place that Kim Kardashian was.
So that's Armenia, yeah.
But Armenia is right next door.
Right, they're in that area. Yeah, they're in that area.
Them do like Gentiles to me.
I know they do, but they're Armenian. Because the regions is the same. That whole region is really similar.
Very small region.
Right. All right, let's read the next few verses there. So anyway, yeah. So these people are now the Samaritans that were, and again, when you read John the 4th chapter, I think, when he's talking to the woman at the well, and she going, our fathers did this, and our father Abraham did this, and he talking to her, like he could have easily said to her, that ain't your father, but because she been converted, just like the Ashkenazim woman. This is our history. He's talking to this woman, and she said, our father Jacob had the mountain. That ain't your father. He could have said that. And then later on, he said, woman, you worship you know not what, for salvation is of the Yahudi. But she kept saying, our father had this mountain, our father, right. But see, that's what happened. When you're converted, you take on what you have been converted by, like the Ashkenazim. They got the whole world believing that they're the actual Hebrews, but they're not. And these people did the same. That's the reason why there was so much stigma in New Testament time between these Samaritans, because they posing as us. And Josephus said in his book, he said that the main reason why we didn't like them was because whenever it was convenient for them, they would be us. But when it wasn't convenient for them, they would be not us, basically.
Who?
The Samaritans, yes. Yep. That's what it says in Josephus, okay? Yeah, a couple more verses here.
And they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof, on 25. And so it was at the beginning of their dwelling there, that they feared not Yahuwah. Therefore Yahuwah sent lions among them, which slew some of them. Therefore they spoke to the king of Assyria, saying, the nation which you have removed and placed in the cities of Samaria know not the manner of Elohim, the Elohim of the land. Therefore he has sent lions among them, and behold, they slay them, because they know not the manner of the Elohim of the land. Right.
So the only reason why I came here was just to show how specific the Father is about the heathens coming into his land, or even us being in the land, just doing any kind of way in the land. But also, I was also dealing with the fact that how there were other great conversions too. So that kind of dealt with two things at the same time. So that's how come when people use the term Yahudi or I'm Jewish or Jews, whatever, we got to qualify what type of Jew you're talking about. Are you a descendant of Yahudah? Are you a practicer or conversion of the religion? See, it's like three different definitions that they have taken on for that, okay? But anyway, that was basically it, showing that Edom is not the white man. He's not the European. Not at all. Okay, so we're going to stand up and close out. Father.
Yeah,
I know. I see how
He's
it
getting, he's over his head, he's sniffing.
I know, my
I
nose
think
is running.
I might have to bring a heater up in here.
I was like, oh, God, I'm like, he's up. Oh, yeah, shaking, I'm so cold. Woo.
Yeah.
All right. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us of our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory. Abba, Yah, we thank you again for allowing us to come again on this beautiful day, on this beautiful Shabbat, Father. We thank you for your protection, your love, your grace, mercy. We thank you for just your spirit, your word. We thank you for allowing us to be able to imbibe in your spirit through the word, that we may be strengthened and may be carried out in your will throughout the course of this week, Father. Continue to watch over us and continue to bless all those who call upon your name and spirit and truth, Father, and bless them so that they may have what they need, so that they may be a blessing to others, Father. Lead us and guide us the way you have us to go. These are the blessings we ask in the name of Yahshua. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
That's what no, well, it don't look like that's. Is that what that is?
Sound like it already rained a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you can hear the wetness on